Hi everyone. Welcome to Binary Automation. So today we'll be talking about API test automation using C# with Specflow. So this is basically going to be a video series which consists of basically testing or automating your unit testing or component testing, or you can even go to the extent saying that how do you integrate, how do you automate your integration level test using C# with Specflow, right? So basically we'll start with what Specflow is, how are the examples, what it is, and then gradually I will also talk about how we are going to build a framework, right? So let's get started then. So if you see what the Specflow is, I have taken this from the official document of Specflow, right? So Specflow is nothing but a test automation solution for .NET built upon the BDD paradigm, yeah, and it is used to define, manage, and automatically execute human-readable acceptance test in .NET project, right? So basically, Specflow is one of the design patterns for your BDD, right? And if some of you have earlier used Cucumber or JBehave, you know how it works, right? So basically, you would write your statements, the one that you want to execute, the one that you want to test in very human readable language, and then you convert that statement into test. So in that way, all the business analysts, your product owners, and everyone can understand what you're testing. And in certain cases, in certain organization, even the business analyst, the way they write the acceptance criteria, you can directly take it, paste it on the feature file, and then you can have that converted into your code, right? Your test automation code, your unit test, or your component test, right? So I'll be talking everything in detail. So basically, as I told you, it's written in a human readable language. So it is that language is nothing but it's called Gherkin. Okay, so I'll just show you in the next slide what Gherkin is, and then you'll understand how those the tests are written and how it is done, right? So if you see this basic example here, right? So the place where we write all this human readable statements is called a feature file, right? So you have a file which ends at dot feature, okay? And if you see so there are certain keywords that are designed or keywords that are written in order to compose a feature file, right? So if you see the first line there, it is called feature colon calculator. Now feature is a keyword here which identifies that this is a feature file, and what is the purpose of that? So the purpose is a calculator. It denotes a calculator, simple calculator for adding two numbers, okay? Now there are certain tags. I'll talk about all certain things which are more in depth about the Specflow. I'll talk more in details, but at least the basic stuff I'll cover right now, okay? So if you see the next tag, line number 6, is called scenario, which is nothing but add two numbers, right? And so scenario is nothing but, so there could be multiple scenarios in one feature file, and each scenario you can actually collate that to a test case, right? So one test case is like one scenario. It can cover more than that, but for example, you can have multiple test cases covering one scenario. But just to simplify things, I'm letting you know that one test case is like one scenario, night. Okay, so now if you see the scenario, how it is written, add two numbers. So what is the purpose of this particular test case is add two numbers. So that is what it's going to do, that is what it will be achieved in that particular scenario, right? So now if you see the statement given, right? So this given is a keyword, okay? And it says that given I've entered 50 into the calculator, and I have entered 70 into the calculator. When I press add, then the result should be 120 on the screen. So it's like, if it says like, it's more of saying that, say I have given you a condition that I have entered 50 into the calculator and I have entered 70 into the calculator, okay? So now what would be your expectation if someone tells you write a code for these specific lines, right? So what you would do, you would create a method, and then you would say hey, I'll enter the first number, okay? So in in the parameterization, you will give the 50 as one number, right? Then you might have another number, you might have, or you might, in the same method, you might give two parameters. One is say 50 and 70, and then for the line number 9, when it says when I press add, then the result should be 120. So what you do, you in terms of coding, what you would do is you will have sum as an integer which is initialized to 0, and you will add that like a plus b, 50 plus 70, and the result should be 20, and then you would assert that, right? So exactly you would do the same thing as you would do in your normal vanilla unit test code or your component test code. There is a code, glue code from your from this particular scenario statement to your code files, right? Your unit test code files, right? So similarly, if you see the next set of lines, it's you have scenario outline, you have, and in that too you have given and when and then. So I'll explain all that in details. So for now, if you want to understand what are the different keywords that are available in the Specflow, right? So this is I have one a cucumber uh, file website, wherein it gives multiple references of what are the different keywords that are there. And I know it is a bit different from Specflow, but at least the basic things of where or what are the keywords, right? It gives you a very nice picture here. I'll add this up if you want to understand what cucumber is. But if you want to understand the actual Specflow, you can actually, or you can obviously go through the official documentation. It's always a great thing, and a nice practice to follow the Specflow doc, because it's written very nicely. The details of how do you set it up, and what is the syntax, and how do you go about doing things. Some of the things that I told you, like the tags, the scenario outline, and those kind of complicated things like the hooks and all, we'll be covering that in the when we do the live automation demos, right? So as I told you, this will be like a series, and we'll cover each thing in step by step. Okay, so now going on to the next one, we have the framework here. So I wanted to let you know how we would be developing the entire framework, right from building small things like like the HTTP calls, right? So basically, when you want to automate your HTTP calls, you would use certain method. There are different methods, right? There could be different methods which are exposed, right? Your get call, your post call, your put call, your delete calls, and such kind of things, right? And when you are testing certain endpoints, the expectation is that you would hit those endpoints, get the response, parse the response, and then validate that against certain expected response, or validate against certain contracts. And then you want to, in case if those endpoints are not ready, you want to mock it. You'll have a mocking service which is ready. You can mock it using mock moq, using wire mock, or you want to fake certain things, and you want to put it in as part of a dependency injection, so you can do that as well, right? So now if you see the framework that I mentioned in this particular slide, right? So each video will cover some of these basic stuff, and then we'll have certain combined videos at the end, which will wherein we'll create a complete end-to-end framework, right? So if I go about what are the things we might cover. If you see, we might individually cover how do you hit get, post, calls using different .NET classes like HTTP client, HTTP message response, message request. There are multiple client libraries, right? And then we can use Newtonsoft library for your JSON parsing. We'll use some of the Microsoft dependency injections, right? That's a very crucial and important thing to understand how you want to register your services. And so those things will cover up. And then, as I told you, we'll cover certain Specflow utilities as well: hooks, tags, scenario outlines. Scenario outline is a very important feature, right? You want to use it as a table, as a dynamic table, and stuff, right? So we'll cover all that in the we'll cover all that. And yeah, if you like the video, please let me know. Please like it, and also comment like what more you want me to cover, so that I'll put that as part of the framework, right?